Please note this podcast discusses real-life crimes and may include sensitive topics such as violence, abuse, and other disturbing content. We recommend listener discretion.
Julia Wandelt, the Polish woman, tried to stop her closing the door when she got inside her own home. She recorded this confrontation, and you could hear Kate McCann's distress while she's saying to her, "Look, I could be your daughter. Why don't you do a DNA test?" And poor Kate McCann is saying, "Go to the police. If you've got something to say, go to the police, not here."
I'm a police officer from the Metropolitan Police, and I work on Operation Grange, the Madeleine McCann case.
Okay.
We actually spoke a number of years ago.
Yes, 2022. I never lied. I never lied.
All I'm going to say is what I said back in 2022. You were not Madeleine McCann.
I'm journalist Helen Fospero.
I'm crime reporter Martin Brunt.
And this is True Criminals.
A journey into the darkest corners of the criminal underworld with insights from decades of true crime reporting.
The stories behind the stories, plus exclusive interviews with those closely involved in notorious cases.
Re-examining crimes so shocking, they still haunt our imaginations.
True Criminals Briefings.
Martin, I've been in Manchester this week. You've been in Leicester. What have you been doing in Leicester?
The McCann stalker trial, which has just come to an end. I'd covered the last few days of it. Essentially, two women on trial for stalking the parents of Madeleine McCann, the world's most famous missing child case. As I said in my report, and I think I'm justified in that, we've discussed it before, but the disappearance of Madeleine 18 years ago in Portugal is a case that I've covered almost since day one. And I've also covered, over the years, stories of the people who hurl abuse online at the McCann family and in some way believe they're responsible for their daughter's disappearance. Now, I can't remember anybody ever being charged over that kind of issue, but eventually two people were. And one of them was a Polish woman, 24 years old, called Julia Wandelt, who was charged with stalking the McCanns. Now, she's just been found not guilty of stalking them, but found guilty of harassing them. And she is a rather troubled young Polish woman who, for lots of reasons, believed that she could be Madeleine McCann. She was suspicious about the lack of knowledge of her childhood. Her parents wouldn't discuss her childhood. She was abused by a step-grandfather, she told the court, who apparently had once kidnapped somebody. And then she said he resembled a man who was once a suspect in the McCann case. So she convinced herself that she either was Madeleine McCann or she could be. And she essentially pestered the McCanns with letters, phone calls, emails, and eventually confronted them outside their home in Leicestershire. And she went on that confrontation with a woman called Karen Spragg, who's 61, from Wales, who didn't know this Polish woman, but had found her on social media and kind of piled in a way, in helping her to pester the McCanns, according to the prosecutor during the trial. Now, Karen Spragg was found not guilty of stalking or of harassment. But at the end of the trial, when those verdicts came in, so the Polish woman guilty of harassment, Karen Spragg not guilty of anything, they were both given restraining orders by the judge. Even Karen Spragg, who left court innocent, the judge said that she still felt that they posed some kind of threat to the McCanns. So they've both been given a restraining order, which means, in very broad terms, if they go anywhere near the McCanns, and in Karen Spragg's case, at least for 5 years, then they could be in breach of that order and could be charged with a criminal offence.
And did Kate and Gerry McCann bring this case? Did they take it to court?
No. When they were being harassed, it took a long time for the McCanns to report it to the police. They essentially do not want to draw attention to themselves because they know that if it did go to court, then the world's media would again focus on them. And they have a very fraught relationship with almost all media. For some good reasons, terrible things were written and said about the McCanns. by newspapers who paid the price in defamation suits. So the McCanns put up with some of this harassment, and it went over 3 years. But it wasn't until the two women confronted them at their house and left Kate McCann very distressed. And certainly the Polish woman, Julia Wandelt, started contacting their daughter, Amelie, that they thought enough was enough, and they called in the police. And that led to the charges. And both McCanns and their daughter, Amelie, gave evidence during the trial and essentially just said how distressed they were left by this harassment they were getting. And they explained that they hadn't bothered calling the police until it got too much for them.
Our podcast, True Criminals, is a year old. Thank you to all those on Patreon and to our listeners who followed us over the year and heard stories that have ranged from serial killers like Fred West and Myra Hindley to ongoing mysteries like the disappearance of Madeleine McCann and Lord Lucan, to robbers including Playboy thief Valerio Vice and Great Train mastermind Bruce Reynolds. As a Christmas special, we want to answer your questions about our previous episodes. Ask us anything you want, and Martin and I will try to answer. Send us your thoughts to contact@audiobleachglobal.com. You can imagine all the pain that they've gone through, losing Madeleine, still not knowing all these years on what's happened to her. It just seems this kind of behaviour by people like the Polish woman seems so cruel, and you wonder how much of this they do put up with and they don't come forth with because they don't want to attract attention. But I suspect it sounds like once it was harassment towards their daughter, perhaps that was the straw that broke the camel's back in this case.
Yes, they've always said that they don't look at social media, they don't watch the news, they don't read newspapers, particularly when the Madeleine story is high profile, but it just got too much when they were confronted on their doorstep. And you can imagine how invasive they felt that. Kate McCann said in evidence, I think, that Julia Wandelt, the Polish woman, having harangued her for several minutes, then tried to stop her closing the door when she got inside her own home, put a hand in to stop her closing it. Julia Wandelt recorded this confrontation on her phone or some kind of recording mechanism, and you could hear Kate McCann's distress while she's saying to her, "Look, I could be your daughter. Why don't you do a DNA test?" And poor Kate McCann is saying, "Go to the police. If you've got something to say, go to the police, not here."
Were you surprised when the verdicts came in today?
I was, yes. I thought it was a compelling case by the prosecution. And I think the fact that the judge has given them both a restraining order, including Karen Spragg, who was found not guilty, shows that the judge must have felt that their behaviour, whether guilty or not, was quite distressing for the McCanns, and felt the need to order something that would stop these two going near the McCanns again.
So the Polish woman says that she might be Madeleine McCann. Has she done a DNA test, or have police looked at this?
Well, Julia Wandelt said that she went online through America, got a DNA test and an interpretation and analysis of it that said there were lots of matches between her and Madeleine. And she did look like age-progressed pictures of Madeleine. So you could understand where her belief came from, whether you accepted it or not. And she did admit that she'd had some issues with mental health. So I think that was part of what made people think, where is this all coming from? Is it a mental health issue? So she claimed to have some evidence that her DNA matched the McCanns. But 2 years ago, she had a call from Scotland Yard who told her, "You are not Madeleine, and if you go near the McCanns, you could be in trouble." Yet she persisted and then did go through this confrontation. It wasn't until she was arrested earlier this year, and as police do with all people who are arrested, they took her DNA, that they were able to show definitively that she was not connected to the McCanns.
It's extraordinary, really, that this very, very sad case of Madeleine McCann just goes on and continues to make very uncomfortable and painful headlines for the family. But if you want to hear more about the story, then tune in to True Criminals episodes 5, 6 and 7, where we talked at length about various aspects of the case. Welcome to our new Patreon followers. Thank you for joining. Just to remind listeners, if you want to hear the episodes ad-free, you can. Head over to patreon.com/True Criminals. Stay with us for 3 months at Patreon and we'll send you a free True Criminals mug. Martin and I haven't even got one of those yet. Your support means everything to us. If you're enjoying the podcast, please take a moment to leave us a review. It helps us grow, reach new listeners, and keep bringing you the stories you love. This episode is brought to you by Audio Bleach Global. Our producer is Russell Barnes, with audio production by Andrew Chappell. The original score was composed by Chap Mannequin, artwork by Bleached, executive produced by Lee Mann. Follow True Criminals on Instagram at true.criminals and on YouTube at youtube.com/@true-criminals. For exclusive content and ways to support the show, visit us at patreon.com/True Criminals. For partnership opportunities, please contact us at contact@audiobleachglobal.com.